Hop atop, Ohio State has completed a 6-pack of spring practices. Welcome to Snap Judgments at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. That is Bill Landis. I am Austin Ward. Not drunk, but buzzing off of spring football, baby.
You could appropriately have a cold beer at the time we're recording this.
6 practices in the books. Physicality on the rise. We didn't get to watch any of it, but you can certainly catch that vibe from the Buckeyes after doing a little bit more hitting here as they work their way through week 2. And when you talk to the linebackers and tight ends, physicality is going to be at the forefront.
Yeah, you can tell when it's ratcheted up when the guys are sitting there, and you can just see the bruises up and down their arms, which is what you saw.
Bruises
on a couple of players,
tape on
buddy
the hands,
taped fingers,
wrist guards,
shoulders
strapped up.
Football's back, baby.
Yeah.
Everyone's banged up. They're not banged up.
Well, bumps and bruises.
Bumps and bruises. What's it get?
Yeah, but it's still going through practice and getting some of that work done. And always great to hear about these two position groups. I'm not sure which one you would like to begin with. You had Keenan Bailey in the tight ends, and you had James Laurinaitis in the linebackers. I suspect we'll probably just need to lead with the increased buzz around what Arvell Reese is going to become in this defense. Yeah,
I thought the smile that came across James Laurinaitis' face when I think it was you who asked him about Arvell. Or I like the way that you phrased it, because you said, we've talked to Matt Patricia twice, and both times he, voluntarily brought up Arvell Reese, and then James Laurinaitis smiled. He's like, yeah, he did. There's a lot of, I think, enthusiasm for what he's going to do for this defense, to the point where I'm I've been trying to figure out a little bit as Matt Patricia, continues to learn about what all he has on hands in terms of skill set, who might be the guy or two who he, really starts to build the thing around. And I think Caleb Downs is very obviously one of them. The other one might be Arvell Reese, like the way they were talking about some of the versatility that he brings to the table. Playing in the box, being able to run sideline to sideline, being able to play down if they want him to. I think he's improving in coverage. There's a lot there for a guy who's 6'4", 240 and moves incredibly well. So that is it's not a stock watch, but that is an arrow that is decidedly pointing up. I think as people assess what this defense is going to be as the physicality continues to increase in spring.
I think if the Jim Knowles era was defined by the safety-driven defense, maybe this will wind up being wrong. I don't know. But it feels like in the early stages with what Matt Patricia has been talking about and the way James Laurinaitis is talking about his group, when you have Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese who can do anything a linebacker could possibly do, they have the physical tools that any linebacker would hope to have. They have the size. They have the wingspan. They have the speed. They have the physicality. They have the IQ for the game, which James Laurinaitis was primarily honing in on that for Arvell Reese, with learning from a mistake and being honest about why those mistakes were caused and then addressing them. I just have this sense that even when you have a position with Caleb Downs, you could say that safety could drive the whole defense. But I think in terms of position group, it feels like linebacker will sort of be the leverage point for Matt Patricia.
Feels like it. Sonny Styles pointed out Matt Patricia's background in coaching linebackers. He's coached, I think, every position on the defense by this point,
and some on offense.
But I think maybe linebacker play, front seven play, is more generally what he's known for in addition to being coordinator. So I sense a lot of enthusiasm from the linebackers in particular about what that might mean for them. I don't think they're scrubbing everything they've done previously, because there were a lot of things about Jim Knowles' defense that worked really well, and I think they're trying to find the balance between that and some of these new, fresh ideas that Matt Patricia might have. But I do think all of it will probably more than likely lead to what's it LBDD? Is that what it is? Yeah, I don't know.
We'll work on it.
Yeah. I think that is the position that could very well end up being showcased in this defense.
And just the ability of those two guys that you're starting with could be.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right? I don't know if that would be true with just any old linebacker pair out there.
Just plug anybody out there.
But when you have, it's pretty crazy. They were walking, standing next to each other for a second, and I was like, "Those guys in the NBA, what?" They're just gigantic human beings who move incredibly well.
We've been talking a lot about CJ Hicks, and CJ and Arvell were off to the side. I was chatting with them after they finished up the interview because Arvell wasn't sure if he was supposed to talk about CJ playing defensive end, and so I was giving them a hard time. All that Arvell said was, CJ's going to pop off. But anyway, that conversation was ongoing. But also, it felt like Arvell, and we talk about CJ Hicks' physical tools and his size and his frame and speed all the time, and it felt like Arvell was just towering over him.
Yes.
And I was like, this guy was made in a lab.
He's a big cat. There was Matt Patricia posted on his Instagram account 2 days ago, and Arvell was they're still doing Silver Bullet of the day, and Arvell won after I guess a second padded practice, and he was standing next to Matt Patricia, and it was just like, and like that's fine. Matt Patricia doesn't have to be 6'5". He's only a coach. He's not a player, but it's just like a reminder of like this is a grown man, and he's only a junior, and it's only his second year playing linebacker. Like there's a lot I think still to unearth with Arvell that probably makes it most exciting. Like his physical tools are off the charts, but once you combine that with this increased like capacity to see things and understand scheme and anticipate, which he already seems pretty good at, it's going to be really high level linebacker. I hope we get to see 2 years of it. I don't know.
I'm not sure that's going to happen.
I don't know that we will or not.
Yeah, I think pairing that instincts with greater knowledge of what's going around. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but James was talking about this process of honest communication and feedback, where it wasn't that they could, like, Arvell had no idea what he was supposed to do, but if he gave this specific example, like, why didn't you walk out in trips? And Arvell would say, I didn't know there were trips. Like, you're going to hear that clip a lot, and we'll talk about that. It's a fine example and a narrow example of what he's talking about, which is like, he didn't make excuses for it. He doesn't make excuses for it. And then you were talking to Arvell Reese about that specifically, and the way that he's grown and how much more comfortable and confident he is. It's like, when was the last time you made a mistake like that and had to be honest and admit to it? And he said, I don't know. Don't think it was any time recently.
Yeah, it hasn't happened in a while. I love that, by the way. Like, it's just like refreshing, because he's like, you don't want to be the guy who says like, oh yeah, I knew that, and then watch film and get caught in the lie. Like, yeah, I definitely can relate to that. So it's good, right? Like, I think there's like a, I don't know, like a curiosity there still as he's trying to continue to learn like the intricacies of the position. That's really going to serve him well once the game starts. And this is the time of year to do that. And it helps too that I think he's paired with a guy in Sonny Styles who, even though he's only a year really into playing linebacker, I think probably has a higher level of understanding with a lot of that stuff, given his incredible football IQ. So I think, I don't think that either one of them said it, but I kind of do get the vibe that when there are things that Arvell Reese like needs to, I don't know, get a better grasp on, for lack of a better term, Sonny's like kind of right there to not only help Arvell, but like help the entire room and, I don't know, the entire team. James Laurinaitis said he's the leader of the entire team, not just the defense, not just the linebackers.
Well, I mean, Sonny Styles is going to be the blocko.
I don't know. Like that shouldn't, like, that's off the board. I don't think you can bet. I don't think you can place a bet on it anymore. It's that obvious.
I am enjoying the way Sonny Styles is approaching that blocko candidacy, for lack of a better term, because you listen to him and the maturity and leadership. He's always been one of the most serious people around, but now it's like some of the personality is coming out. He didn't have to do that before, and he mentioned that earlier on Thursday. So, well, you had Jack Sawyer there, you had JT Tuimoloau, Cody Simon was the blocko. Some of that stuff didn't have to come through Sonny Styles. He knows that has to be the case, and he even smiled on Thursday morning.
He did.
He was asked about being an Iron Buckeye, and he's like, well, I also won a national championship. And then he just kind of laughed. And he's like, hey, I don't think that's ever happened before. And I think that is refreshing too. Berman, I had him on 20 Forever recently. Some of that you could see in that conversation as well. So he's still taking the job very seriously, but he also knows that there's more to that job than just acting like being between the lines is the only thing that matters.
Yeah, I think he plays. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say. He plays a very important role in this team for a variety of reasons. But I think one of the reasons that sort of struck me today as he was talking about it, as there aren't a lot of starter holdovers, especially on defense, from the team that just won a national title. But I think the guys that are probably need to do the job of setting the tone of like that was last year, right? Like the young guys can be striving for that, but I don't know that like it would really take hold unless the guys who already like were starters on the team that earned the ring kind of pull them with them. And it does seem like Sonny's taking that very seriously, trying to help like set that tone on the field, off the field, in meeting rooms, wherever. Like he's assuming a ton of responsibility, as we've discussed a few times with Cody Simon going out the door. And I almost wouldn't like begrudge a guy if he didn't want to meet that head on because of their like lofty expectations, right? But I think so far, Sonny seems to be like hitting all the right notes as the guy who has kind of assumed all those responsibilities.
Yeah, I think those linebackers are going to be really good, really productive. And it's not going to be news to you. I think the same is true for the tight ends as well. There is a shift this spring. I'm talking to Keenan Bailey and about that position group where at this time a year ago, It was, you guys are the most overlooked position on this team.
Mm-hmm.
You're viewed as the weak link. You're the least talented according to the recruiting rankings. You need to be the toughest. You need to be in a foxhole mentality. And the toughness part is non-negotiable. That has to be the case for that tight end position. Keenan Bailey's not going to change that as well. But there has to be, there is a message shift because Will Kazmarek is back. He's got plenty of acclaim and body of work behind him. You have Bennett Christian pushing forward, but you also have Max Clare as one of the most productive tight ends in the country. So you couldn't just walk into that room, not to mention Jelani Thurman and his recruiting profile. You can't go into that room and say, well, you guys are overlooked. That's not the case anymore.
Nope.
These are veteran guys, and Max Clare was one of the highest, most coveted tight ends in the portal. So you have to adjust some of that. And now the expectations are raised, and they've got to meet them while still doing all the things that made that group so important a year ago.
It's a good looking room. Like even like Nate Roberts is like a pretty well put together freshman player. He talked for a little bit. I admittedly did not spend a whole lot of time with the tight ends who were out here because I was talking with Peyton Pierce for a while.
Yeah.
But I did catch a little bit of what Max Clare said, and the reason I bring him up is because I think his path is interesting, and I wonder if it might like help cultivate some of what you're talking about in the room, because he said like I could have gone anywhere. Basically, he was the number one tight end in the portal. He could have gone anywhere. He could have gone to a lot of places that probably promised him the ball a lot more. I'm assuming Keenan Bailey didn't promise him the ball at all.
It would not be a smart promise to make.
Yeah. But Max Clare also said is like Keenan Bailey told me the things I wanted to hear and some things I didn't want to hear about like how good of a blocker I am and I need to be, and like I wanted to come here to become a complete tight end. And I think for a guy of his talent level and the way the teams were coming after him to kind of make that decision, I would think like resonates with the room, right? Like that it is the work ethic I think in there was already pretty good. But now that there's like some expectations placed on them and some thought that like maybe they can actually elevate, perhaps be something a little different than what that position's been over the last couple of years. I wonder if putting somebody like Max Clare in that room for the reasons that he came here might help like get that to where it needs to go quicker maybe than would have otherwise.
Yeah, and Will Kazmarek, again, is a key part of that. Keenan Bailey was talking about an example on the practice field today where he described it as encouragement. First he said yelled at, and then he changed it to encourage, which is like
that's a coach.
Learning that standard, and that it's different from whether that I won't go into details about who or what happened there because I wasn't on the field, but like you're not playing at a high school level and you're not at Purdue anymore. So whoever that could apply to, that message
we'll never know.
You'll never know. Well, because there are two maxes, so you there's some wiggle room.
That's right.
Either way,
right.
I don't know, but that's the message that's coming now from somebody who's been through that for a year. Will Kazmarek did say like the transition. He said last year that he believed he belonged at Ohio State. I think he proved that. But to say that the first half of spring practice went smoothly for him, we talked about it a year ago at this time. It did not look great. There were times it looked like he was struggling to adjust. He admitted and acknowledged that today. It's like you could go win one rep, but then you might have to face four more guys who are Big Ten caliber, national championship caliber players. And doing that and sustaining that over the long haul is the most difficult part of playing at Ohio State. So that's a message for the rest of the room. He's been through that. He's on the other side. He also talked about the injury in the middle of last year, getting hurt against Oregon, being a little bit of a positive for him. Came back. I don't think he was fully himself during the playoff, but he was contributing when he needed to in those last couple games. But that he had a chance then to sit back on the sideline again, understand what it takes, get some of those mental reps that we hear a lot about, and then come back on the other side. And that he's able to grow and build on that. Physically in great shape now, another winter behind him. I think there is a lot to like about that group, especially if you're saying Bennett Christian and Jelani Thurman are the two coming off the bench behind. That's the kind of veteran depth and athleticism that few programs could hope to have at that spot.
Well, yeah, without knowing the intricacies of every roster, I would venture to say that no one has four tight ends that they think could probably play if they needed them to, right? It's a really hard position to have that many guys. And it does seem like Ohio State has it. I'm going to say they at least have three with Will Kazmarek and Max Clare and Bennett Christian based off what happened last year. And you're just kind of waiting to see it with Jelani a little more. I think I didn't hear much of what Jelani said today, but I think maybe still searching for that consistency. The athletic profile is what it is, but it's about time for that to kind of all come together, I think. And, I don't know whether it's good or bad that he's in a position where like Ohio State doesn't necessarily need that from him. So maybe that relieves some of the pressure for him to get there. But if they can get him as the fourth guy who's like ready to roll, then like this position is probably as good as I've seen it in my time covering the team.
Both spots are in great shape. We didn't even really dive into the depth at linebacker, but you had Riley Pettijohn, who looks like he's been in a Big Ten program for multiple years already as a true freshman. TJ Alford out there, Eli Lee, these guys. You mentioned Peyton Pierce being involved in that. Garrett Stover was out looking like he's been never taking a day off because cows don't either. So that's like both of these positions have that in spades and great leadership at the top. So I think they're in good shape. So there's not going to be a lot of negativity coming out of these snap judgments.
I don't know how there could be. It was interesting. Like last year, I think both these position groups had some questions about them and fair ones throughout the season. I thought both answered them pretty well, especially the linebacker position. And now, I guess it's the nature of being at Ohio State. It's like, okay, great, you showed us that you can handle this. Now what? Like, what's next? Like, take it a step forward and show us what you got, kind of thing. But I think they're both ready for it.
That next step then for the Buckeyes will be Saturday. That will be spring practice number 7. We won't be here for that. Closed to everybody. Next availability with the Buckeyes will be Monday. We've got 24 Ever coming on Friday with G. Scott Jr. I promise you will want to catch this one. Great insight, great stories.
Did he cry?
Berm did not get him to cry, but there are emotions.
Did Berm cry?
Berm cried. So you want to tune in for that. You want to see some tears from Berm. Really enjoying those series. So that'll be Friday morning. We'll be back in the Woody on Monday to hear from Ryan Day as they reach that'll be practice number 8. They'll be past the midway point of spring. We'll have snap judgments then. These were snap judgments on a Thursday in the Woody for linebackers and tight ends. Thanks for joining us. He is Bill Landis. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you later.